Hi, I'm Denise Medved, the creator and founder of the Ageless Grace Brain Health Program. And many people ask me, what made me think of this? What made me want to do this 7 years of initial research? Why did I want to bring this program into the world? First of all, I feel like everything I've ever done all my life, from marketing and advertising and public relations in New York City to teaching health and fitness on some level or another for pretty much most of my life, and I'll explain why in just a second, has all come to the place where I was able to create Ageless Grace Brain Health. But I was inspired specifically by my mom and 3 other factors. My mom was a brainiac. She read, she studied, she took courses, she taught school, she played the piano from the time she was a little girl until almost the day she passed away. She did crossword puzzles and brain games and word games and played cards. She read the encyclopedia from cover to cover, no kidding. She was constantly learning and using her brain. However, she hated physical movement and fitness. She never exercised. She didn't like to walk anywhere. I gave her many videos and DVDs, and I always found them on the shelf with the wrappers still on. She never watched them. So what happened, though, with my mom was she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And she went on approximately a decade journey of that horrifying and frightening disease that is not only scary for the person who has it, but for the family who loves her. So as soon as I heard that diagnosis, I said, this can't be. Because at the time, all the books, the medical professionals, the universities were saying that if you did crossword puzzles and brain games and word games, that you could delay or put off or not even have cognitive decline. And my mother lived her life that way. So I said, something is not right with this picture. That can't be true. And about the same time that I was wondering how this could be so, Harvard did the first study that proved that crossword puzzles and brain games do not delay cognitive decline, because in fact they only affect 1 or 2 or possibly 3 of the primary functions of the brain. And I always like to compare it to brushing your teeth. If you only brush your front teeth for years and years, then you're going to have issues with all the rest of your mouth. So same thing, my mom worked on 1 or 2 parts of her brain. However, her whole brain was ill and had Alzheimer's disease. She inspired me to do the research, to do the study, to find out why this could be. And then comparing her with the same aging quality as my dad was surprising, because my dad spoke English as a second language. My dad did not like to read because of that. It was not easy for him to translate in his head. He never read, he never studied, he never took a course. On the other hand, my dad exercised and worked out, and he actually owned his own physical culture, he called it, gym, which was basically a weightlifting gym. He became Mr. Tennessee, Mr. Dixie, Mr. Wisconsin, and he had best back and abdominals in Mr. America and Mr. Universe, because he realized as an artist and a sculptor that he could sculpt his own body, that he was in charge of that. So my dad was always active and fit, and he was always challenging his body, which meant that he was also challenging his brain. He would jump up on a stone wall and walk across the stone wall, at 70 years of age. He would walk up the stairs on his hands with his legs in the air because he could. So he was constantly doing what we now know was stimulating the firing of neurons and generating neuroplasticity. And my dad was sharp as a tack right up until he took his last breath from something completely unrelated, cancer. Now, the other model that I had was my grandmother. My grandmother, who was constantly active all the time, even though she had horrible arthritis, and so did her mother, and so did her daughter. And she was constantly crocheting, knitting, walking. She would walk far. They lived on a big farm, to the mailbox and back again every day. And she said, this is what I have to do in order to keep moving. And she would do things that were interesting. She'd get on her hands and knees and plant lilies of the valley along the sidewalk. She would do all kinds of things all day long that kept her physically active. And as it turns out, it was also keeping her mentally active to plan tend these flower beds and gardens and things that she did. So those people inspired me to create Ageless Grace. And then one little thing else that I would like to add, because people look at me and they say, oh, well, you're healthy and you're fit, and so you don't understand what it's like to have a physical challenge. Well, I was born with a mild form of spina bifida, which caused me pain all of my life. And pretty much I spent all of my life, and that's why I was always teaching fitness and being a fitness professional all my life before I went to work in the advertising industry and after I came home in the evenings, was to keep my own spine from feeling such pain. I was told I would be in a wheelchair when I was 40, and I'm not. I'll be 70 in May, and I feel better and healthier than I did when I was in my 20s. And quite frankly, I owe most of it to the fact that I practice Ageless Grace Brain Health every single day, as well as teach 8 classes a week. So I hope that you'll join me and discover the same things for yourself.